Well, hi there. Welcome to a new edition of Tranny Mythbusters. I'm Shannon and I'll be your host. Okay, so I want to talk about this pervasive idea that transgender women go around tricking straight men into sleeping with us. Oh my god, like idea for a reality show? Okay, so like a hidden camera show like Punk'd, but instead it's a trans woman who seduces a straight man, and then the hidden camera comes out after they finish having sex, and the trans woman is like, yo, you just got transed. I'm kidding. Please don't make that. All right. We don't need to give the straight world any more ammo to fuel their paranoid delusions. So that's the topic of this video. We'll go into it in a minute, but I want to start off by playing a clip. I came across a few clips this morning that sort of go into the most common reasons that men find themselves attracted to transgender women. The first one was from Joe Rogan.
True. Also, he's discussed what type of porn he's into.
What kind?
I was just into everything, brother. I went down some dark alleys.
What's the darkest?
The darkest alley? The T's.
The T's.
T's?
The T's, brother.
The fucking T100s. He ran into some T1000s.
The boys and the girls. When the boys become girls.
When the boys become girls. And
the T's. Trans.
He liked the T's.
That could be an issue.
He didn't like
Joe, I'll tell you, it is.
You don't want to get caught with that.
Well, here's
stuff.
the thing. It's just a ramping up of like, I'm talking about super normal stimuli, dude. That's why I'm so passionate about that. It's like your brain, you need like the edge. And this was my problem with it. I didn't have a drug problem. I could never like stop drugs or whatever. But then it's like you get the blood flowing on sex stuff. It's like that's not getting it flowing. You go to like something a little bit more kind of out there. And then you finally you land on those shores and you go, my God. My God, where have I gone?
I don't love this clip. The guy's talking like the guest is talking about his experience of porn addiction, and then that sort of being a thing that escalates into where you need like more and more extreme stimuli in order to get aroused, and so that leads you down fetish rabbit holes, and one of those fetish rabbit holes being trans women. This video is a little bit difficult for me to watch because of that aspect of it. It bothers me that people consider this to be something that is something that needs to be reformed, or something that you need to change about yourself. If you find yourself getting turned on by seeing trans women, then that means that this is a red flag, there's a problem. I think that a lot of trans women develop sort of like a complex about men treating us like sex objects or like fetishes. And maybe it is a fetish for some people. A lot of things could be considered fetishes. I think at one point in time, like just being gay was considered a fetish. So I do think that the fact that men who are attracted to us tend to keep it within a sexual realm and then like go back to their normal straight lives, I think to some degree at least that's more of a reflection of social stigma. It causes the guy to have a lot of self-doubt and like question his sexuality and feel a lot of shame, and so that I think is a big factor in why this guy sees it as a problem, why people see it as something that's like, oh no, this is getting out of control, that sort of thing. But I like the fact that he, I don't like the terminology he used. He calls it a silent epidemic of men going down this rabbit hole of being really into trans porn because of like maybe they've just like become so desensitized to other types of porn.
I will say, dude, I'm telling you, it's a silent epidemic, dude. And I'm not projecting this onto the
silent
masses.
Epidemic?
I believe so.
Dudes into T's?
Yes. I truly believe so. I actually know if you read the book, what is it, fucking A Billion Wicked Lives, A Billion Wicked Thoughts, where they crunch the fucking metadata from the internet, and it's like, it's doing numbers, dude.
Someone's crunching the metadata on trans porn?
On all porn. It is good. It is good. It's a jolt of electricity. Dude, it's your fucking sexuality at stake, and I'm fucking hetero as hell.
I get it, bro.
But it's like, bro,
I believe you.
Thank you.
I know a lot of people listening.
I need to hear that from you right now, Joe, because I'm in a dark place about it.
It is like something that I think is extremely, extremely common. There's no real other explanation. It's something that confused me for a long time. The fact that, especially now, when I walk down the street, okay, anywhere that I go, men approach me all the time. And I'm not saying that to brag because they'll approach anybody, okay? But guys will literally come up to me and like try to talk to me or whatever, and they'll be like, "You're a tranny, right?" I'm usually not interested anyway, but if you word it that way, you've definitely killed your shot with me. But they know, and they still are interested, and they're trying to get my number or whatever. There's this one guy that stopped me, like he like pulled over in his truck, and he's like talking to me, and like sometimes I'll like talk to them like when they pull, just because I I think part of me is flattered by it, and so I'm a little afraid of like being mean, like how are they gonna react if I just ignore them, that sort of thing. So I'll like chat for a second, and the guy was like, "You're different, right?" And I was like, "Look, that's the best way I've ever heard that put." My point is that it's extremely common, and I always wondered why. Like, why is this? So I'm gonna put another clip in here that goes more into it. I can't remember what all he was saying in the video, so I'm just gonna clip in like the most important parts. I did find him to be like a lot more respectful. Joe Rogan, on the other hand, okay, first of all, Joe Rogan's clip, this is the thumbnail, the shady ass thumbnail he used. Like, I guarantee you that the guest that had this addiction to trans porn, that is not what the trans women that he was jacking off to, all right, looked like. They did not look like that. But here's Joe Rogan pretending that this is what we all look like. This thumbnail to me just screams insecurity. So, like, it's very telling to me that they use a picture of this kind of trans woman and not a picture of someone like Nikita Dragon, not someone who actually looks like the type of trans woman that are in the porn that this guy watches. Like, they literally can't bring themselves to admit that there are trans women that are attractive looking. It's like they're scared of someone thinking that they find trans women attractive. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that is like I can't help but notice how often straight men do this like online, where they use a picture of the clockiest looking trans person you can imagine, as if that's what we all look like. And I think it's an insecurity thing. You know what? Like, I read through the comments on this, and I was pleasantly surprised. I'll give it to him a lot. There are a lot of people in comments who do admit to having attractions to trans women. Like, usually this is something men lie their asses off about. Like, when they get in front of their friends or in front of groups, like in public, they will sort of, like, even these guys that are admit it here will not admit it in their real lives in public most of the time.
Liar, liar, plants for hire.
But it's like, reading through the comments, I found this actually kind of triggering. It's sort of like, even when they admit it, they don't admit it. Like, I know that doesn't make any sense. I can't put into words why this bothers me so much, but it's like they'll admit, okay, they put it in the terms of like, I'm a victim of this too, of being attracted to trans porn, which, okay, you're not a victim of shit, first of all. These are the kinds of guys that a lot of trans women are victims of because they can't come to terms with having this attraction. And so they treat it like something that they have to keep in a sexual realm. They treat it like something that they shouldn't act on, or that's a problem, and that they're like we are these sort of worthy objects of shame for them, not someone they would actually take seriously. And for these kinds of men, this is a big reason why I'm not that into hooking up anymore now that I'm older. Because like, I'm just like, if this is the kind of guy you are, and you come after trying to like have sex with someone like me, it's not happening. My advice: go hire a hooker. All right. Anyway, that was a little rant, but back to the video. I used to like Joe Rogan a lot more. I think that there's a tendency for people who are more not politically correct, those kind of commentators. And I consider myself to not be politically correct. So this is how I feel like I know this. I think that a lot there's a it's very easy when you start presenting those less politically correct opinions, you draw in people who also are not politically correct, but who might be maybe like radicalized a bit more to the right wing, or 4chan, that type of culture or whatever. And you get love bombed by them, while at the same time you have people on the liberal side who are upset with you for saying something not politically correct. So it's easy to go down a rabbit hole where you become more and more not politically correct, i.e. more and more right wing. And I think that's kind of what's happened to Joe Rogan. Like, I remember a clip from years ago where he's talking about the trans subject. It was some guest on, and they were talking about like the lady boys of Thailand, which is like what they call trans women in like Thailand, like the Philippines. And Joe like said something like, basically, I can't remember what he said, but it was something to the effect of that. Well, like if it's a lady boy and like she's really sweet and like pretty, and like I can get why a guy might be into that, or might, make an exception for something like that. Like, his attitude toward it was just a lot less judgmental and, like, in my opinion, more logical. But the more he talks about trans stuff, the more he attracts a right wing audience, the more he starts to, like, be less supportive. So I can admit that I felt a little bit of a schadenfreude. I think that's how you say that word, schadenfreude. Whenever the internet was roasting Joe Rogan for his bad comedy special. You know, it's like that's what you get. Okay. Anyway, here's the clip that I was talking about. It's from a guy named, I think his name is like Noah Church or Noah E Church, something like that. Okay, so before I get to the clip, I just want to like preempt this by saying that first of all, I'm going to include a lot from this video. He gives like a lot of scientific explanations that I think are interesting, but it's going to cover some stuff that is touchy, all right? And the only reason I'm really including like the touchier stuff is just like for any idiots in the comment section. Like on this guy's video, there's actually comments like, I saw this one of a person like, this a guy who's just like, listen to everything the guy had to say about why certain straight men are attracted to trans women, still insisting, well, if you're attracted to trans, then you're gay or you're bi or whatever, and just spazzing out in the comment section. And that's what some people are going to do. So I do want to like just put the scientific explanation in here. But it is a touchy subject. A lot of trans women are like, maybe some of you guys can relate to this. Like whenever you meet anyone that's attracted to you, any guy, you always wonder, is he attracted to me because he sees me as like any other woman, or is he attracted to me because he finds the trans part like sexy or exciting? And like personally, I've gotten to a point where like, is a guy who's into me, is he into me because he just thinks I'm pretty, or is he into me because he likes the trans thing? Well,
I don't know, and I don't care.
I don't care anymore. It's at a certain point, it's just like splitting hairs. But a lot of people do find it this touchy. I think that the men that I've encountered in my life kind of run the gamut in terms of why they're into me. So some of them, it might be like they're super giga tranny chasers, and then some of them like probably never been attracted to a trans woman before or never like considered it. And so maybe it is just a thing of like they just like me because they like me. I really don't care. So in any case, when you're watching this clip, if it doesn't apply, let it fly, basically. I think, again, this doesn't necessarily refer to all men that find themselves ever attracted to a trans woman, but it does refer to a large enough subset that I think this is very worth mentioning, because I think a lot of men struggle with this. Also, for any haters who do find their way to my video, first of all, if you leave a mean comment, it's getting deleted. No one cares what you think, okay, bitch? Fuck you and you bald-headed mammy too. All right. Anyway, here's the clip.
What's up, rebooters? Coach Church here. Today I've got a topic that I think will be of interest to a lot of you because I get questions about this a lot. And that is, why do some straight guys start getting off to transsexual porn? That's porn that features an actress who is a woman, but who used to be a man, and who may or may not still have a penis. What does this mean for these guys? Are they gay now? Do straight guys suddenly just turn gay? HOCD is homosexual obsessive compulsive disorder, and it develops, I've only seen it develop, among men who have used porn for years consistently and have escalated to this type of content, either transsexual porn or gay porn, and they've started to doubt their sexuality. And it's characterized by a constant anxiety and paranoia about their sexuality. And these are not men who were always homosexual, who always sort of were attracted to their same sex and were suppressing it. These are men who were always attracted to the opposite sex, but are now starting to get off to some different material that makes them doubt that. First, let's make one thing clear. Transsexual women in porn are attractive to largely one group of people, and that's heterosexual men, right? Transsexual women are women. They present as women. They have feminine characteristics. Who is attracted to these feminine characteristics? Heterosexual men. Actual gay men who have always been attracted to men, they like to look at and have sex with men who present as men with masculine characteristics. They're attracted to masculinity. And just because a transsexual might have a penis doesn't mean that she is masculine or has that aura of masculinity that is attractive to actual gay men. I'm going to read from a quote of a transsexual male-to-female porn star. She says, "I will say that all of the visitors to transsexual sites are straight. Many of them are married men, men in relationships with real women, and single men." So just because you're getting off to transsexual porn, that certainly doesn't mean you're gay. It's common among straight men, heterosexual men, to start getting off to or become attracted to transsexual women. Now, why does this happen? Well, there are three main reasons. The first is because, like I said, we guys were attracted to visual characteristics of femininity. And these transsexual women often display these characteristics to a stronger degree than women who were born women. because they're focused on becoming as feminine as possible. So us guys who are very visually oriented, the stronger the visual stimulus for femininity, the stronger our arousal response tends to be. Now, the second reason is due to novelty, sexual novelty. All humans and animals across the animal kingdom are wired to be aroused by novelty. New mates, new scenarios, new sexual encounters. And this is in part to ensure genetic diversity, so that we're not staying in one small community and interbreeding. We go out, we seek new things, new partners, and that way we foster a healthy human race. But the internet is very good at delivering an endless supply of novelty and hijacking this healthy system in our brain that gets us to seek novelty. And over time, it's so powerful that our brains, in order to defend themselves from overstimulation, desensitize. The neurons become more numb to that stimulation from sexual stimuli. So this results in tolerance. For a porn user, we tend to start spending more time looking for that perfect clip to finish to, or escalating to new genres, novel genres that hack into that part of our brains. It gets aroused by sexual novelty. And images that also provoke strong emotional responses like anxiety, surprise, shock, these can actually make us spike our arousal to even higher levels. We're constantly reaching new plateaus. So once someone sees that transsexual porn and they're already aroused, it's a female body that's arousing to them, but it's also shocking and surprising and anxiety-inducing. That person will be even more aroused by what they're seeing, and if they keep seeking out that transsexual porn, they'll build a new plateau for themselves. The third reason is because of the penis, and this applies to transsexual women who still have a penis. Now I'm going to let Ogi Ogas and Sai Gadam explain this one. They are researchers and authors who wrote the book A Billion Wicked Thoughts and mined a huge pile of internet search data in order to parse out exactly what turns people on.
Male sexual cues are primarily visual, no surprise there. And one thing men like to look at are body parts. And to somewhat of our surprise, it turns out there are 4 body parts that men in every country in the world are interested in looking at. And they are chests, buttocks, feet, and anybody want to guess what the 4th one is? The penis. Sperm competition adaptation. Sperm competition adaptation. This is found all across the animal kingdom, especially among mammals. And it exists because when a male sees another male copulating with a female, if the first male wants a chance to out-reproduce the other male, to impregnate that female, he needs to have more sexual arousal and pursue her with greater sexual vigor than the second male.
Well, that starts to explain a lot. Okay, I see. So straight guys are aroused by the sight of an erect penis, especially in the presence of a woman, because it is a signal that sex is happening there, and in order to pass on our genes, we better get aroused right now and get in on this. And the more dominant the male that we see, which is indicated primitively by the size of the penis, the more aroused we get, because the harder we're going to have to work to get in there and reproduce in the presence of this dominant male. Now, this explains a lot. This explains cuckold porn, for example, or the cuckold fetish, in which guys get off seeing their wife or their partner have sex with other men, especially large, dominant men. It also explains why so many straight guys search for big dick porn.
So we can get an idea of exactly what men are looking for with penises by looking at individual search histories, and here's one of them. Men are especially interested in looking at large penises.
And it helps to explain this whole transsexual fetish.
In the same way that the juxtaposition of 2 different visual stimuli can trick the visual brain into producing an optical illusion, it's possible for two different sexual cues to trick the sexual brain into producing an erotical illusion. And since male sexual brains and female sexual brains are so different, we'd expect male erotical illusions to be different from female erotical illusions, and that's indeed what we find. A great example of a male erotical illusion is she-male porn. Now, you might be surprised to hear that she-male porn is actually one of the most popular genres of pornography all across the planet, one of the top 10 most popular genres of porn for heterosexual men. Heterosexual men form the main audience for she-male porn, and we can look at different examples of she-male porn to get a sense of what men find attractive about this. They're attracted, young women, large breasts, round butts, small feet, and large penises. In other words, a juxtaposition of the different visual cues. In fact, if you talk to men that are fans of she-male porn, they usually say something like, she's beautiful, but then there's something else that pops out of my brain. It's beguiling, it's strange, I can't really explain it, which is exactly how people describe optical illusions.
Again, don't love the fact that they're treating it just like a fetish, which again, maybe it is for some people, but think about it, okay? We all sexualize people that we're attracted to. That's part of attraction, is being sexually turned on by them. I think because of the way the world is, and because trans women are only a small percentage of the population and we're stigmatized, whenever guys find us sexually attractive, it's more likely that they'll treat it just as a sexual thing because of the stigma and everything. But I think that's a problem that women have in general, is men sexualizing them or wanting them to meet their sexual needs and not wanting, like, an emotional connection. I think it's hard for everyone to date. Like, it's hard for cis people too, or biological, whatever you want to call. I know some people are offended by the word cis, but I think it's hard for everyone to find what I think we're all ultimately looking for, what we spend our lives looking for, which is someone to love us. But I think that it's easier for men and women, like biological men, biological women, to develop emotional connections with each other because that's what's socially acceptable. And so that's who most men are going to settle down with. It's really just a matter of who you allow yourself to get to know and build an emotional connection with, which I think is something that can happen between people from any walk of life. So that's really, at the end of the day, people should be more concerned with, well, people are often concerned with having sex, but if it's a matter of finding emotional connections, yes, I do think that's possible, for regular women and for trans women, okay? In any case, I do love the fact that he makes it clear that the kinds of men that are into this porn are in fact straight. Trans porn is in fact one of the most popular porn categories, and it is sought out by men, not by gay men who have been attracted to men their whole lives, but by straight men who have been genuinely attracted to women their whole lives. This is something about the world, okay, that I think people have to start coming to terms with. And they've been pushing it off on us, the trans people and the LGBTs, like it's our fault, and really lashing out at us because there's something about straight people, or at least a lot of straight people, that they don't want to confront, okay? The popular idea that I see a lot online is that, like the subject of this video, trans women trick straight men, okay? Which, okay, sure, that does happen sometimes. A lot of, well, I don't know what percentage there is, but I have heard of trans women when they first start out transitioning and trying to pass, that they will deliberately try to sleep with a straight man, and if he doesn't clock that she's trans, she doesn't tell him, and that they do that to boost their self-esteem, to feel like they're very passable and they're that pretty and everything. A lot of times the guy probably does know that they're trans, but it's a little bit of like a delusion. I've never myself done this, but I've heard people doing it. So it does happen, but most of the time, whenever like a trans woman gets killed, most of the time, the guy already knew she was trans. It's more about the social stigma, the immense shame, all the things that these guys are struggling with inside that this trans woman triggers in them. They may actually go as far as like to date or sleep with the trans woman, but they're still struggling with that internal, whatever all of that shame is. And so they take it out on the trans woman. At some point, something triggers them and they kill the trans woman. But when you read the comments on videos about like trans women who got murdered, it's always, okay, it's always people in the comments saying, well, y'all need to stop tricking these men. There'll always be like trans women or LGBT people in the comments saying, no, these guys know. They know what's up. But people don't want to believe it. Okay, first of all, women don't want to believe it because women don't like admitting that they share a sexual marketplace that a lot of the same men that like them like us. And I don't know why they have so much trouble with that. I think it makes them feel less secure about like if someone that's not really even a real female in their minds is able to get the same guys as them, it makes them, I guess, in their minds, feel a little less special, less secure in their woman. I don't really know. I guess less secure in their womanhood. It's something I'll have to think more about, but it triggers a lot of women, and so they would prefer to believe that trans women can only get with a straight man if we trick them. Okay. That's what they want to believe. And a lot of women, you can put it right in their face that the guy knew, and they still don't want to believe it. A lot of women have to literally catch the man in the act before they'll ever believe that their man or the kinds of men that they like would ever do anything with someone other than someone like them. Okay. And so whenever I see like these compilation videos online of women finding out that their men were doing DL stuff, which I don't like the term DL because it in a lot of people's minds, the term deal implies that the man is secretly gay, which is not what's going on whenever it's a man with a trans woman. It's what the guy talked about in the video. That's usually what's going on. And it's different reasons, different things. But it's hard for me to feel sorry for the women. I'll be honest, it's hard for me to feel bad for them. In fact, sometimes I feel a little bit of schadenfreude. That's just the buzzword for this video, schadenfreude. I really hope I'm pronouncing it right. Because like there'll be videos where like, the woman's talking about finding out the man was with a trans woman, and she's calling like the trans woman a he or an it or whatever, like being very disrespectful. But it's like, okay, you're contributing to the shame and the stigma that the men feel, and that's why they go behind your back to do this, because they know what you'll say and how you'll think of them. And if you didn't contribute to that, then if women in general were not contributing to that, then there would be a lot less of this quote unquote DL stuff going on. And then I also think that a lot of men, like heterosexual men, are insecure in their sexuality. And maybe they've seen a trans woman at some point that they found attractive and it made them feel insecure. We live in a world where there are men who won't even wipe their butt cheeks whenever they bathe because they think that that's quote unquote gay. They're very policed about their masculinity. So a lot of men feel very pressured and like they internalize that so much. So the idea of doing anything quote unquote gay really scares them. And being perceived as gay for violating male social roles scares men a lot. So they lash out. They prefer to believe that trans women are just tricking men.
Liar, liar, plants for hire.
It's just like collectively, all these people with all these different motivations contribute to these like ridiculous social myths that people prefer to believe in the face of evidence that contradicts what they prefer to believe. And for transgender women and for LGBT people, that's a big burden for us to have to carry on our shoulders, trying to appease the rest of society. My advice for a lot of trans women is just to try to remember that when the world is like lashing out at you the way that it is right now, that it's not you, it's them. It's stuff about themselves and the world that they can't come to terms with. Like honestly, we don't need so much a trans acceptance movement right now as we need an acceptance movement for the kinds of men we're discussing, the realities of society that we're discussing. Like that is what really people need to come to terms with. And once they come to terms with that, then accepting us should be easy, in my opinion. I just feel like the world prefers to oversimplify everything, and people get really harmed psychologically because of that. I myself was a victim of this. Like growing up, I never understood why I was attracted to straight men and I wasn't attracted to gay men most of the time.
Homosexuality is when someone is romantically or sexually attracted to people of the same gender. For men, this is often referred to as being gay, and for women, it's often called being lesbian. It's like liking sugar and loving only people that like sugar.
And I felt guilty about it. I felt like, oh, I guess I'll be alone for the rest of my life because I can't bring myself, I just can't be attracted to a man with feminine traits. Now I understand. I'll include another video in here that talks about like the different types of sexualities. Some of them are kind of crazy sounding to me, but in my mind, when they talk about the term androsexual, like that makes sense. Like,
if you are androsexual, your sexual radar will ping whenever you encounter someone who exudes that masculine energy. This could mean physical characteristics like a chiseled jawline or a deep voice, but it could also be about the way someone carries themselves, their confidence, or their traditional masculine qualities.
I'm not just like the world tries to tell you, oh, you're a man and you like men, so that makes you gay, and that means you should be attracted to gay men. All right, which is a societal construct, in my opinion. What I learned as an adult is that it's not just that I'm attracted to men, I'm attracted to masculinity, and that makes me androsexual. And the men that are attracted to me, I clock them usually as gynosexual. Okay, they're attracted to like hyperfemininity.
They are totally attracted to femininity and everything that has to do with feminine energy. For example, you see someone with a soft, graceful vibe and your heart does a little happy dance. It's like having a radar that goes ding whenever someone brings that feminine energy.
And things that just trans women have about us naturally. So that's why I believe that like you have to embrace yourself, and when you start to really embrace who you really are, stop letting society tell you who you are, that's when you start to attract what's right for you. But anyway, what the guy in the video, the last video I clipped, was really spot on about is the way that trans women are kind of hyper feminine, and that attracts gynosexual men. Okay, it challenges a lot of straight men's perception of what they should find attractive. There's this song that my friend put me onto by Heidi Montag. I've been obsessed with it. But if you listen to it, if you listen to the lyrics, she's talking about like playing into men's sexual desires. And I hope that's something that HSTS trans women just do naturally. Like this song is such an embodiment of like who we are on the inside. So I love that song. Anyway, the reason that I really know that trans women aren't tricking men is because before I started transitioning and I went through like my androgynous phase where I was very feminine looking, and I can look back at like pictures of myself from back then. And here's the part of the video where I'm going to include another Shannon Doherty clip. She was doing this podcast shortly before she died, where they were rewatching episodes of Charmed, and she like had this realization when she looked back at her younger self that she was a lot prettier than she thought she was back then. I think she's one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen.
You know what's really interesting about going and rewatching these as a woman is I was like, God, I was really pretty back then. Oh my God. I was like, and we're not even wearing a lot of makeup. Granted, we have like, you know, really good lighting and everything else, but I was like, I was so thin. Yeah, I was so not one wrinkle on my face. And although I've enjoyed watching them because for me, it's the first time, it made me a little sad.
For yourself?
Yes.
You were jealous of yourself?
I was jealous of myself. I was like, why did I look like that back then and not like that now?
25 years.
But it's so interesting, like how we are so hard on ourselves that, you know, even like the most beautiful people in the world, I still feel probably compare themselves to other attractive people and feel like there's stuff that they don't have about themselves that makes them feel insecure. So when you're young, you can like really see yourself as a lot less attractive than you really are. It's not until years later you're able to appreciate the way you look back then. So with that being said, I can look back at myself whenever I was like in my early 20s and I was growing my hair out. I was starting to wear makeup and stuff like that. I wasn't fully accepting what I was. I think a lot of times I was already being read as in the T category, okay? And I didn't fully understand that. But I remember back then, I talked about this in a previous video. I went to rehab because I have a history of problems with alcohol abuse, and that's something that I've spent a lot of years working on. But anyway, so I have no shame. People will judge me about that. I used to be very scared of judgment by talking about my history with that. But I'm actually grateful for it because, first of all, I'm not ashamed of the fact that I had to go to rehab. I felt like glamorous. I felt like Lindsay Lohan when I was in there. I felt like some starlet, you know. But anyway, the first time I went was during this androgynous phase, and they put me on the men's side, okay? And those guys in there were trying to holler at me, okay, explicitly. They were doing it on the DL, but I can look back and realize, like, yeah, I was a pretty little thing. I was feminine, and this happened all the time with these straight dudes that were into me. Like, I get more of it now that I'm like fully presenting as a woman and accepting that about myself. But back then I was getting like, like a lesser version of it, but I was still getting it a lot. And they knew what I was, but they would still have the same reaction. They liked that femininity. They liked that. Like, I remember, like, just you can pick up on a lot of nonverbal cues from people. And the way some men looked at me, it wasn't just, oh, here's an opportunity for sex. It was like kind of like they were mesmerized by me. Like, you could see it in their eyes and like the tone of their voice, the way they reacted to me. Um, I look back on that fondly now because it was really nice to get, even though like the situation didn't work out a lot of the time, it was nice to be appreciated in that way. There's a lot of times where I regret not transitioning sooner, but at the same time, I feel like I don't regret it because that was how I was able to learn things about the world, learn things about what men are attracted to, and not have to delude myself into thinking that I have to be the same as a real woman. Because there's a lot about being trans in general that's attractive to men, which not attracting men is not the end all be all. But I think as human beings, we're very driven to want to find mates, to want to find someone to emotionally connect with. We spend our lives looking for someone to love us. And that's why it's been a little bit of a struggle for me to accept that this is a bit of a therapy session for me right now. I feel like because of the way the world is, a lot of everyone has a hard time finding love and finding like a long-term relationship in general. Most people have a hard time with that, but I think that when you're trans, there's extra layers, a lot of societal pressure that I think sabotages a lot. It's just a lot harder for us than it is for most people, I think, to find someone genuine and find something like, what most people are looking for. And I've had to accept within myself that because of the way the world is, there's a chance that I may never get to have that love of your life, spend the rest of your life together, that type of that fantasy. And it's a fantasy for most people. I think real relationships are a lot harder than they make it seem in the movies. But okay, one of the reasons that I'm glad that I made some of the videos I made recently, or talk about like experiences I've had with guys in the past, it helped me to realize that, like, okay, so I've experienced, little romance like here and there. There have been guys that I've experienced having like a actual genuine emotional connection, and that like meant a lot to me, and that helped me to grow as a person. The things that like a relationship generally is supposed to help you with. I've experienced that. I've experienced, hooking up with the hot guy from the club, or the club, as they say these days.
In the club, we all fam. In the club, we all fam.
I've experienced dating like the really super good looking guy who's actually like a monster on the inside and like belongs on the episode of Dateline. I've done the things. I've done it all. Like, and maybe this is a cope on my part, but I feel like so many people end up in like long-term relationships or marriages with people that a lot of times it's like people marry out of convenience. They marry because of family obligations or like social expectations, or because they feel trapped in a situation. A lot of people are in relationships with people that they may spend years and years together, but they never actually truly love each other. They don't really want to be together. And I feel like when I'm actually honest with myself, that was never something that I wanted for myself. If I ever find myself in like a long-term relationship, I want it to be for the right reasons. But in any case, I can look back on the times that I did like find real connections with people that were meaningful for me. And now that I've experienced everything, like I feel like I don't have this pressure on myself anymore, like to try to like hook a guy before it's too late, before I get too old or whatever. It's a big weight off my shoulders. And I've gotten to a point where I sort of view men, like there's a clip of Cher where she says, I'll try to clip it in here.
You said a man is not a necessity, a man is a luxury.
Like dessert. Yeah. A man is absolutely not a necessity.
Did you mean that to sound mean and bitter?
Oh, not at all. I adore dessert. I love men. I think men are the coolest. But you don't really need them to live.
And, maybe I'm a little bit more of a hopeless romantic than that. So I see men as more than just like an indulgence. I do think that I value situations where like it is like a genuine, like, emotional connection. However, I don't need that. I've gotten to a place where like it's more about time to focus on me, basically, like and get to know myself, figure out who the hell I am. And now that I'm not like desperate to like try to prove something to myself, to prove I can get a guy or whatever, I feel like whenever I'm ready to like start like really putting myself out there, when I've done some more work on myself, I want it to be like a situation where it's right. You know what I mean? Like where I want it to be worth it. And that doesn't mean that I can't be a loving person. I can look back on like times when I've hooked up with guys like in the past, over the past like few years. And there's a certain type of guy that I find that tends to like me, tends to be like the blue collar guys. I've talked about this before. I can just like know him when I see him. And like sometimes like at work, my friend will be like, that guy's checking you out. And I'm like, I bet he is. Okay. Cause I know that that's the kind of guy that likes me. And even if it's not like a guy that I'm hooking up with or anything, I will like be a little nicer to them, because even though like I'm not necessarily looking for anything, or they may not be looking for anything more than sex, let's be real, I still like appreciate that this is who appreciates me, and I feel like I understand these men, and so maybe I don't agree with them on everything, but I still like kind of try to like just give a little snippet of what could be, if that makes sense, a little snippet of, I like you. Like, I don't know you, but necessarily, but there's things about you that I like. You're a worthy person. I appreciate you too. That sort of thing. And that's just one of those little ways that like maybe one day I'll find like the full thing, the full, I don't think I'm ready yet, honestly. I think I'm the one that's been avoiding commitment, but maybe one day I'll find the full, lifelong partnership thing. But if I don't, then that doesn't mean that I can't have, like meaningful experiences still, and enjoy like experiencing attraction and so forth. It's something that I've discovered about the world. But anyway, my point is, people can believe however much they want that trans women are just tricking these men, and they can ignore reality, deny reality as much as they want. They probably will for a long time. Maybe someday things will start to change a bit more. But if it doesn't, then it doesn't mean that we can't find fulfillment and like fulfilling connections with other people, and fulfillment within accepting ourselves for who we are. The world doesn't get to decide for you how much you like yourself. It's something you decide for yourself. I feel like I'm starting to ramble, so I'm probably going to end it here. Thank you guys for watching, and if you have any ideas for stuff that you'd like to hear me talk about or like to hear my opinion on, then let me know in the comments. But until then, I will see you guys next time. So have a great day, everyone. Bye. I'm actually going to close off this video with a clip of Shannon Doherty again. I know I've been talking about her a lot. That's my queen. And this is like not necessarily related to any of the video, but hell, it's my channel. Okay, I'll do what I want over here. It's my hot body. I'll do what I want. So what I've always loved about her, like she was like a fucking hellraiser. Okay, that was her thing. Like she did not take crap from people. She wasn't a mean person, but I feel like whenever someone did something to her that she thought was unfair, she would fight you. Okay, she would stand up to you. And I think I always sensed that about her, and like have always admired that and wanted to embody that in my own life. And I kind of make this video like in the spirit of that. Like you do have to like pick your battles in life, but whenever people are doing something that is like, in my opinion, oppressive, or like, trying to like take advantage of you or keep you down or whatever, I feel like those are the times in my life when I want to push back. And so I love that fighter spirit. And this is just like a little jokey joke. Like back in the day, in the early 90s, she hosted SNL, and they sort of joked around about her like hell-raising spirit. This is like a fun little parody of like that, just the spirit that was within her, and that I try to like find that within myself. So just for context, there's going to be some parts where like they're talking about like her writing bad checks. That was her thing. She used to like to write hot checks back in the day. Child, she blew out that 90210 money on a lifetime supply of cigarettes.
And as some of you may have heard, I had an amazing week last week when I got married. Had such a great time that I decided to let them show the video of my wedding. So here it is. This is me and my husband Ashley with our wedding cake. Not a great shot, but he's very handsome. This is me with the maid of honor. She looks very beautiful.
was cash.
Here I am talking with the caterer. He did a really wonderful job.
6 months ago.
Well, I never said cash.
The deal was cash.
Here, I'm sure this will cover it. It's from the spellings. What are you doing? Turn that thing off.
Here we are at the reception, ready to make the toast. That's me with Ashley and most of our close friends.
What is that? My check.
Here's Reverend Lindsay who performed the service. He's a very old family friend. Now we're back at the reception. I don't know how this got in there, but it's from the honeymoon. Okay, we're back at the reception. My father-in-law is in there somewhere. Finally, this is towards the end of the reception. We're lining up for the official portrait.
What did you say to me? I swear to God, I'll kill you.
Kind of boring, so thanks for indulging me. Now, stay tuned. We got a great show ahead. Cypress Hill is here, so stick around. We'll be right back.